Jeff, glowing00cabbage's, or however the name is supposed to be pronounced, or Jeff, as we know him, presented an interesting thread here. 4 favorite things and some street art. I will show you 4 favorite things, and they weren't allowed to have anything to do with records. I have one thing that's a bit music oriented because, well, music is in many ways my life. And you also wanted to see some example of local street art or graffiti. Well, I have to say I'm very old-fashioned when it comes to this, because I can't see anything worth watching when it comes to street art. I don't like that. But so sorry about that. We're all different. But I thought I could show you some graffiti. Well, true graffiti that I photographed back at my mom's place. My mom lives up in northern Sweden, in the same town where I grew up, and she lives in one of the outskirts of Luleå, as it's called. It's called Hertsön. And Hertsön has probably the highest number of immigrants. So somebody thought that, well, you know how it can be. You have to show that, oh, you are proud of your heritage, and no, don't become a Swedish boring person or whatever. I don't understand this. So somebody had written outside, or at the house, at one of the doors, with ink pen. I'll show you. It's this photograph. I'll show you this, and I'll explain later. Right. It says "Varning för svenifiering," and you could translate that to be aware of Swedification, or being Swedified, becoming too much Swedish. And when I first saw that, that was when I moved down to southern Sweden. I moved to a suburb called Husby, where there aren't almost any Swedish people at all living there. Well, very low number. The immigrants are well, quite a lot of them, so to speak. So when I went back up north and I saw this graffiti, I just started laughing, and I said, well, whoever wrote this, you don't have anything, you have no idea what you're talking about, so come down to Stockholm and have a look. Anyway, and that's some graffiti that I noticed and that I laughed at because I thought it was so silly. Anyway, enough of that. Time to have a look at 4 favorite things, and I think only one of them has to do something really about music, although it's not a record or record player or anything like that. So let's move over to part 1. Part 1. Well, I live quite far away from northern Sweden now. I live outside Stockholm. And of course I only go up north around 2 times every year. I don't really long to live there again, because I'm happy down here. But of course I've got my roots up there, and I feel a bit extra about it. And I'm happy to say that I've got some photographs that brings back some memories. Photographs of old relatives, many of them who are not longer with us. When I was a kid, around the time when I left home to build my own home, all the photographs from my childhood disappeared. I have no idea where they went. So my whole childhood, when it comes to photographic memories, just disappeared. I've been able to track some copies, mainly from my grandfathers and other relatives, but and also like a couple of years ago, I got this negative scanner that you plug into your computer, and my mother had saved all the negatives from when I was really small, and from the years before I was born, and some from when my mother grew up as well. So I spent a whole summer there almost making digital copies from these old negatives. Some of them, of course, were scratchy and worn, but still, it's something. So, my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, passed away at Boxing Day 2010, and I've been up north since then, and I brought some photos to have here with me as nice memories. And of course you can't see them very well when I show it to the webcam, but I hope you'll get some sort of idea. This is the first one, and it shows my mother to the left when she was a very small girl, very tiny little sweet girl, and my uncle is sitting in the lap of my grandmother. This is obviously from the late 50s, and yeah, makes me warm-hearted to see that. And I found a very beautiful picture of that I think show how beautiful my maternal grandmother was when she's at the Christmas, sitting with a dog here underneath the Christmas tree. Very, very beautiful picture. And another photo here of my maternal grandfather together with my mother and my uncle when they're out on a car tour with their car. I managed to get this photo, which this is a couple that I never met because they were both gone long before I was born. It's my maternal grandmother's, maternal grandfather's maternal grandfather and my maternal grandfather's maternal grandmother. Very nice old black and white photo. And I have here a very early color photograph of my maternal grandfather's mother, a very lovely old lady who I managed to meet and get to know during her last years. She died when she was 93 in 1986, so I remember her very well. I think this was taken around her 60th birthday in the early 1950s. And I have here a small photograph of my maternal grandfather, who was a bit like a father to me because, well, my father, well, he didn't really stay around and he died early as well. But this is a early black and white photo of my maternal grandfather. I don't know if you can see it, but it looks a bit like Monsieur Hulot. And I have here also a photograph of my maternal grandfather, Bror Henry Jakobsson. As I remember him. A handsome devil, yeah. And, well, I have other photos recent of other relatives as well. Where did that go? Yeah, I don't have that many relatives, and I have no contact whatsoever with the relatives on my father's side. Alas, it's very sad, but I think it's not much to do about it by now, 37 years later. So I feel very much for the little number of relatives that I got. And I found here a photograph of my two cousins who were born in Sri Lanka, Lina and Malin. This photograph is from 1990, so they were around 4 years old then. Today they are two very beautiful young ladies. I found a photograph of one of them here, that's Lina. And I always find great joy in meeting them, and they are always welcome in my home here in southern Sweden, in Stockholm. So that's one favorite thing, these photographs, or having old photographs, photo memories, because they represent my relatives and my background. Okay. Next thing. Where is it? Yeah. It's this framed cartoon. I don't know if you can see it, but it's a cartoon that I printed out from internet. It's with Crazy Cat, the George Herman cartoon. And it's Crazy Cat and the mouse Ignatz. This was from the 1920s probably. They sit around a table and Crazy Cat says, "Why is language, Ignatz?" And Ignatz answers, "Language is that we may misunderstand one another." And Crazy says, "Is that so?" And Ignat says, "Yeah, that's so." And Crazy says, "Can you understand a Finn or a Laplander or a Oshkosh, huh?" And Ignat says, "No." Crazy says, "Can a Finn or a Laplander or a Oshkosh understand you?" And Ignat says, "No." And then Crazy says, "Then I would say the language is that we may misunderstand each other." And I thought that was so clever, so I printed it out and framed it and put it on my wall. And this was probably sometime around 2004, 2005. In the summer of 2005, I started writing a blog. It was great fun. I got some readers and I got in contact with other people in Sweden who liked reading what I was writing. And it was like I got some new friends from that. And one day I didn't really know what to write about, so I saw this framed cartoon that I had on the wall behind me or behind the computer. So I thought about that, and well, let's write a blog post about this one. And one of the first persons who wrote a comment about this cartoon was a new reader who hadn't made a comment before, and she made some sort of comment about really. I don't really know what the comment was about, but it was witty and an interesting comment. And later I found out it was a lady who lived down here in Stockholm with 2 children, divorced, and we got more and more in contact. We started writing to each other, talking to each other on the phone, and well, we fell in love with each other. And later I decided to move down to Stockholm to her, and we still live together 7 years later. That's quite amazing, quite amazing. So of course this has a deep symbolic meaning to me, because my life changed around, it turned around quite a lot when all this happened. It was very, very very interesting experience, and so this now hangs on the wall behind the computer. So I will hang it back up later. It's a symbol of this time and this experience. So that's number 2. Number 3 then. One moment. Number 3. No, I'm not cold. So why have I wrapped myself in this bed cover? Well, for some reason this bed cover has been following me around for, well, probably quite big part of my life. And I had it on my bed in my childhood boy room when I still was living with my mother. And when I moved from my home, I brought it and I had it on my bed there too. And I noticed that whenever I really felt a bit bad, I wrapped myself in this. And for some reason, it had a very good effect on me. I got calm from it. It's like getting wrapped in warmness and kindness. And some years after I moved down to Stockholm, I started remembering this bed cover, and I thought, I wonder if it's still around somewhere. So I managed to find it in an old box of old belongings that were now in my mother's home, with some stuff that I didn't think that I would need to bring, or maybe would bring later. So I brought this with me, and I often tend to, if I sometimes sleep badly, when I wrap myself around this, I start sleeping much better. I get relaxed, and I have no idea why this is the case. It's like Linus blanket in Peanuts, although I don't walk around with this in the street, but I love this bed cover, and I have no idea why, but it makes me feel good. That's number 3. Okay, and the 4th and final favorite thing. This is has to do with music, but not just music. But it's this guitar. It's quite ordinary Washburn. The model is called D10M, and I bought this in the summer of 1993. That's 19 years ago now, and I think I paid around approximately $300 or 300, well, something like that for it. So it wasn't super expensive, but it was still quite a lot of money for a young guy like me. It was not my first guitar. I had first a quite cheap school guitar that I used, but this was my first steel string guitar, and I stick to it because even though I sometimes feel that, oh, when I see other guitars, oh, that's such a nice guitar, I would like to have that. For some reason, I really feel that I can't really replace this one. It's got some scars, and it's got. You can tell that it's been played on quite a lot during the years, but you can't really get rid of a music instrument that you've been playing more or less frequently for 20 years. And I can tell you something about this strap as well, with leather and some sort of felt. This was made by my mother's boyfriend, who was a Norwegian guy, very cool guy. He introduced me to the music of Frank Zappa by giving me some cassette tapes with his some of his albums. I'm still not a Zappa fan, but I still find it interesting. So I bought some of the records he told me to get after that, and he was very good at creating things in skin like this, or leather like this. So he made me this guitar strap. A couple of years after I got this, he sadly passed away from illness, and it was a big tragedy for my mother, of course, and also for, well, I think it was a great loss. He was a cool guy, and he liked music, and he loved talking about music. So of course we got along very well, although there was some difference in our age. I think around 25. He was 25 years older than me. So this guitar strap I will use it as long as I live, as my favorite guitar strap. Yeah. I think that's about it, and I hope some of you may have found this slightly interesting, and thank you, Jeff Glowing Cabbage, for a very interesting and good thread. Sorry about not really liking street art, but you got something to watch anyway. Bye bye.